Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. My name is Chris. I'm your host. This show is called The Weekly Spinner Rack because we're talking about comics. And what a lot of comics we have to talk about this week, actually. A lot of interesting news, mostly really positive stuff, too. So that's always kind of fun to vibe with. Got some interesting comics that came out this week that we're going to talk about. I may just bust out the old pen and pencil to draw a little with you all. And I personally am super tired right now. So I thought ahead and I've got this piping hot cup of coffee. So what I plan to do is I'm going to jam my hand in there. That should release tons of adrenaline into my body, perk me right up for about 10 minutes or so. And after that, maybe grab a hammer, grab a knife, something like that to keep giving myself that jolt of adrenaline so that I can give you an Aces show. How are you all? Let's see. I know. Let's give some shout outs to folks that are already in the chat room because this is a live show. It's very interactive. Yeah, I know. Hello. Just a hola and let's see. I could always eat another hot chip. Yes, these are some great ideas. Lovely to have everybody here. Chat room's filling up. I love it. Thank you very much for joining me. I really am tired, but that coffee is good. After I finish this show, I plan to stay sitting right here, letting my back and legs really cramp up as I continue to edit because I am super determined to try to get this Comic Tropes episode that I'm working on finished tonight. I really would like to get it out to you guys ASAP because it's slightly tied into Halloween. Halloween is tomorrow, so I guess this is the Halloween show. It is not a pumpkin spice coffee. I try to avoid as much sugar as possible, so this is just basically a coffee, non-dairy creamer, and a little sugar-free syrup. Hello. Lovely to have everybody here. Did somebody say Halloween? This is the Happy Halloween chat. That's right. Happy Halloween. Anybody out there going to any sort of Halloween event? Any of you in the live chat wearing a costume this year that you're willing to share with us? I am not planning on participating in anything Halloween related other than we'll make this the spookiest show I've ever made. Guaranteed. I promise that before the end of this show, I will be murdered live on camera. No, I'm just kidding. 4 salutes to coffee. All right, we'll go boom. That's the double salute. That's the guarantee that you get here. Pretty nice. Hello to all these lovely people. Is anybody talking about wearing a costume? Wait, did I miss one? I'm not wearing any pants. Wasn't quite what I was getting after, but lovely to have you here anyway, Marvin. Thank you. No time. Totally understand. Most of us are adults with obligations to work. Oh, Portugal. That's really cool. You're already scared. My finances and bad timing prevented me from doing anything. Scary, yes. Spooky. I've never been to a live murder. This is the official adaptation of the Red Room comic book by Ed Piskor. Official, and yet not endorsed by him at all. Let's see. I'm going to dress up as a cowboy, go to the neighborhood bar with my partner, and freak out some heads. Well, have fun. Taking my grandkids out tomorrow and might dress up as Blackula. That's pretty badass. I hope you do. That's pretty cool. The news last week. Blackula will show up in the comic book Philadelphia. See, I know how to bring it all together. I am the segue master. Preparing for NaNoWriMo. Well, good for you. That's an amazing challenge. Writing every day of November. Good. Love to see it. I hope to never be at a live murder. Yes, I totally am with you on that one. My costume is a guy who is supposed to be working right now. Hope I can help you get through work. Let's see. I almost spat out my tea at the live murder bit. Well, that's the Chris promise here. You won't really have a good time, but you might spit out your tea. Oh, Dynamite Thor. Now there you go. There's that's some deep lore there. I'll put on my Freddy sweater. Perfect. As long as you're even doing that just to give out some candy, right? Planning on giving out a crap ton of Pokemon cards. That's awesome. All right, tell you what, that was a lot of fun, but we are already almost 6 minutes in, and I haven't really talked about any comic book stuff. So let's get that on the road. Let me just get a sip of my coffee here. It's worth it. It'll jolt me up. Jolt, jolt, jolt. I'm going to start with some comic book news of the week. So let me add this. There's my super amazing document. Always making this show in PowerPoint. Or if there's ever a free generic supplement that's as easy to use, I am happy to use that. And look, nailed it again. Put my big fat mug in the thumbnail. We're going to talk about some fun stuff. This is a hint of what's to come. A hint of what's to come. And there's me going, might be all right. Yeah, sure. Let me throw this one out. Richard Mole passed away. Character actor, best known from Night Court, but did all sorts of stuff. And to comic book fans, I would say probably best remembered as the voice of Two-Face on Batman the Animated Series in the 90s. So let's get into some fun news, though. Well, this isn't the most fun, but it's still comic book news. An Avengers writer calls out Joss Whedon, this guy. And boy, I'll tell you something. I was a huge fan of Joss Whedon in the Buffy and Angel era. Very disappointing to see his downfall and see that he's pretty much been a jerk to most of the people that he's worked with. That hasn't been fun to discover. But we're going to talk about something specific to Avengers. So this comes from Zach Penn. He's written a lot of stuff, Ready Player One, I know, was one he wrote for movie screenplays. Within the MCU, he wrote one of the first ones they did, Incredible Hulk, and he was the original screenwriter for a draft of the Avengers. That was something that Marvel was working on for many years to get right. So that was a big deal. The Avengers, I mean, of course it's a big deal, but it was a big deal while it was being put together. So there's a new book out that's got all the tea that you would want spilled about behind the scenes stuff in the MCU. Pretty thoroughly researched. I just picked it up. It's called MCU: The Reign of Marvel Studios. A lot of people that have worked on it have commented on the record in this book. So it's got a lot of interesting stories, both from the business and the creative side. But Zach Penn has some quotes in here about how badly Joss Whedon treated him, in his opinion, which I think is valid. So I've got some quotes. This is from Zach Penn. All of the other directors we had been talking about, he's talking about when they were trying to decide who would direct Avengers, Joss wasn't on the list. I heard he was going to rewrite the script himself. He didn't even want to meet with me, which, by the way, I always call the writer I'm replacing. I feel like that's courtesy. Ooh. Here's another quote. Upon reaching out to Joss Whedon, once he heard that it was going to be rewritten and stuff, Penn added, quote, he said to me, "No, it's not awkward for me. I'm rewriting you." It became apparent that he had less than zero interest in any way having me involved with the movie. And one more quote. I think he's a dick. I think he's a bad person. And it was really surprising. Remember, my bonus is based on my credit. So, literally millions and millions of dollars, which is not the issue here, but that just came out of my pocket and went into Joss's pocket. If you watch Avengers, you will see a story by credit, but Joss rewrote it and I guess did it in a not so friendly way, according to Zach Penn. So, yikes. I haven't read a whole lot of this book yet, Beowulf, but it does seem interesting if you're just sort of curious about Hollywood and stuff. And just separating the fact that I read, comic books and watch comic book related material, uh, the MCU. I mean, it's been over 10 years that they've been making interconnected movies and material. And even when the reviews aren't great, it obviously still makes tremendous amounts of money. So it is an interesting bit of business to sort of read about. It's something like 400, I don't know, 430 pages long. So it's a pretty thick book. I haven't gotten too far into it, but there was that. And I'm disappointed. I still think that in a lot of ways, Joss Whedon has some good ideas as a writer. Um, he's got a unique way of doing dialogue. He's good at setting up entire season arcs and having some character growth. There's a lot of stuff that he did well, but apparently he is not a friendly collaborator. And there's also a lot of stuff about alleging him to be a sex pest, which is much more troublemaking. Oh, there's a book that came out, not that one, like an official book, just sort of like putting the Marvel movie timeline in order, that features a few small retcons saying exactly when each movie took place. And it officially declares that the movie timeline is 616, which I think is confusing because the mainstream Marvel continuity has for many years been thought of as the 616, and that was, by the way, Alan Moore that introduced that concept in his Captain Britain run, and it's just confusing to have more than one universe designated 616. I'm not against the idea of more than one universe thinking of itself as the 616, choose a random number or something. But I don't think it makes sense to officially call it the 616. Whatever. Why didn't anyone call Joss Whedon out on his behavior before? Well, to be clear, they have before this book. Things got really bad for him when Justice League was made. That was when a lot of accusations started flying. But before that, his ex-wife alleged, that he was cheating on her and stuff, and a lot of bad stuff came out during that time period too. So he's had several periods where some bad behavior has been called out. This is just something very specific about something comic related that I thought I'd include. There are 998 other 3-digit options. And just to be clear, in the Marvel Comics universe, they call the movie universe something like 1999999, I think. I could be off by one digit, but it's something really close to that. So whatever. Yeah, Charisma Carpenter has some pretty awful things to say about him and how he treated her, especially on the set of Angel. And, she'd been with that sort of Buffy and Angel world for quite a while, and they eventually basically let her go because she got pregnant. That's not awesome. Yeah, Chemdog mentions how Joss Whedon's dad used to work on Golden Girls. Joss Whedon's dad also wrote some comic books long before Joss ever made it into the industry. He wrote primarily some Spidey super stories. So, yeah. Anyway, that's one thing to start out with. Just some goss, hot goss. Some MCU actors are sort of teasing Young Avengers, which is something I'd like to see. On the right here is a screenshot from Shoshidal. I don't know how to pronounce her name. Gomez, from actress Ms. Gomez. And specifically, what we're talking about is this is Cassie Lang actress Catherine Newton. She played Cassie Lang in the third Ant-Man movie, Quantumania, and she was on the America Chavez actress's TikTok with her, and teasing when they might work together. The caption to this TikTok was, I don't know. Kevin Feige. So basically, they're teasing, hey, Marvel, you're going to do something with the Young Avengers idea. America Chavez and Stature are both characters that could be in there. This is a comment from below. Someone saying, someone call Haley Steinfeld so that we can get the trio. And Miss Gomez replied with like an emoji there. But Marvel has set up a lot of characters that could potentially be in the Young Avengers team. Um, we've seen somebody play the character who becomes Patriot. We've got Wanda Maximoff's twins, Speed and Wiccan, is who they become. Although they're technically young, you could always sort of come up with parallel dimension, right? Why not throw in Ms. Marvel? Ms. Marvel would definitely be in there. But I think you would need somebody like Haley Steinfeld because she plays Hawkeye. That's sort of a name. You need at least one sort of big name to anchor a movie, I think. But there's a lot of actors and actresses that Marvel could say, hey, this is a member of a new team of Avengers, and I would say, like, do it sooner than later. They're real kids, and they're real kids. Once they exist, they were just like created by magic, by chaos magic, and they exist in some universes, and they don't anymore exist in that main movie universe. But yeah, I want Young Avengers. I think Young Avengers would be great. Uh, add a Kang variant of some sort. Call him Iron Lad. That would be interesting. Who else are some prominent Young Avengers? I don't know. It would be a fun idea anyway. Add a version of Vision, yeah, or maybe just say that like Vision created a family and add Viv Vision. That would be interesting. Throw in a Nova, maybe. I don't know. There's a lot of characters you could go with. You could take some of the characters from Champions or other young teams. Take Squirrel Girl or something. But Paste Pot Junior. All right, all right. I love that idea. Yeah. What do you think, guys? How about me as Paste Pot Pete Jr. In there, acting alongside actors like Haley Steinfeld and Catherine Newton? You think that you think I'd pass for a young Avenger? I think so. We'll see. Yeah, hey, you know what? As long as we're talking about some of this Marvel stuff, let me pause here because there has been some good comic book TV stuff out there this week. And Loki season 2, I really like it too. I won't spoil anything, but it does seem like there's a possibility this season might be all about the characters being in a type of a time loop, which I think works really well as a metaphor for the main characters because of course they're caught in a loop of sort of bad behavior or things like that. Loki is trying to break out of the loops that he finds himself in and be a better person. That's an interesting arc to be going on. So that's what I think is happening there. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm really enjoying it so far. Some great characters. I won't speculate too wildly on what I think is going to happen because I don't want to spoil anything. But that's been good. So is Gen V. I think on Amazon Prime, the Boys spinoff Gen V is quite good. I think that's a recommend. But the thing I'd recommend the most out of like comic book TV stuff is if you have Netflix, check out Pluto. I think you guys probably know, if you know me halfway decently, that I love the manga of Naoki Urasawa. Love that guy. My favorite manga creator. And Pluto is a fantastic story. It is just an 8-episode self-contained thing. I think that the animation is nice, but the story itself is, you've got a murder mystery, you've got some really interesting character arcs, and you've got some amazing world building. So Pluto is really, really good. That is out. That came out this past week, yes. And Pluto is out, and I really think it's a strong recommend. I liked it anyway. I like it a lot. So just wanted to put that out there. Oh yeah, that's right. Invincible season 2 is just about to launch. So Amazon has had some really good success with The Boys and Invincible. I was really surprised at how little they promoted something like Paper Girls, which is also a comic book show they adapted, and didn't really give that one too much promotion. Yeah, I'm glad that you've been hearing some good things. I saw, EJ, that you pulled out your old manga. I have also been looking, and I can't figure out where I put mine. It's just frustrating because I wanted to reread it too. One of the very first episodes I made on Comic Tropes might have been like episode 3 or 4. It was really early on anyway, so I don't really remember at all what I had to say. I hope it holds up, but I do remember that I definitely covered Pluto as one of the very first things I ever talked about on the channel because it was something I really love. It's okay to be late. Paper Girls is fantastic. I didn't even know there was a show till it got canceled. That's too bad because it was pretty good. It was pretty good. I think it could have done better with the right promotion. And I think that like Amazon could sort of brand itself as, hey, we do comic books right when we adapt them, something like that. AMC definitely has branded itself as the Walking Dead channel, Hey, just happy to have you here. Thank you for jumping in. Yeah, that's true. It wasn't superhero. It was sci-fi, but it was still based on a comic. I don't know. Well, I hope you check it out, Owen's Reviews, because I really liked it, and I'm glad that this is, a one and done thing. So it's not like we have to worry about Netflix canceling it. No, they adapted the whole thing, and if it does well, maybe someday we get some more adaptations of Neo Kurosawa stuff. What about a live action show for Monster? I don't know how that hasn't been turned into a premiere TV show yet, to be honest, because Monster is not anything that would be expensive. It's about a doctor on the run. It's so, so good. It's so good. But anyway, I got a little sidetracked just talking about stuff I've been watching here and there. Let me get back to the comic book news of the week. Here's a fun one. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. That is a manga that everybody keeps asking me to do an episode about. I'm still making my way through the manga. I'm only up to like the second arc. Okay. That it's been going for a long time, folks. Give me some time to catch up. But as you can see, this is a real ad here on the right that they have done. KFC and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Yes. Over in China specifically, they have a collaboration going with JoJo's Bizarre Adventure and KFC Chicken, specifically based around the Stone Ocean arc, which is the 6th arc that they did. Just to recap, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's been running since '87, so there's a lot. It would need a whole episode to talk about. But part 6 was the last sort of part before creator Hirohiko Araki essentially rebooted things. It's a little more complex than that. It's more like a soft reboot, but yeah, everything in the first 6 parts like takes place about a generation in the future each time. So it deals with like a family line, the JoJo family line, essentially. But anyway, yeah. So the buckets are emblazoned with the main heroes as well as their stands. In the world of JoJo, stands are a physical manifestation of your energy. It's a superpower, though. Okay, it's a superpower. Let's see. Hard to see the JoJo physique aligning with eating KFC reminds me of the Final Fantasy ramen. I don't remember Final Fantasy ramen. Is Colonel Sanders a stand? Yeah, he's my stand. Anyway, I just got a kick out of that. I feel like, over here we get Burger King or McDonald's will put maybe some comic book toys in a Happy Meal. But sometimes when I go to I've been to Hong Kong, I've been to Japan, and there's way more of an integration with some of this manga and sometimes the anime based on the manga. There are Burger Kings that are completely done over to look like they're in the world of Spy Family, for instance. Like it's a much bigger integration, the collaborations over there. Whoa, thank you for the super chat, John Dorsey. Thank you. Oh, hi. Good evening, troopers. Lovely Monday evening, and all hail Chris as the steward of comic entertainment. Long live the paced life. Thank you. There's a reason they call me Mr. Comics. It's because I bring together all you comic reading nuts. So, there used to be more fast food comic licensing than there is now. That might be so. That might be so. Moving on. I just thought that was a fun, weird one. The MCU Daredevil might feature White Tiger. Apparently, this news was already out there. It was news to me. But White Tiger's a pretty important character in the world of Marvel and has been around a while now. As I recall, George Lopez did have a hand in designing the original White Tiger, who is Marvel's first prominent Hispanic superhero. But so Marvel's Daredevil, that went on hiatus during the writer's strike. And during that time, Kevin Feige had reviewed the footage and decided it's not working. And they're going to let a bunch of writers and directors go and try to save some of the footage, but they're going to start from scratch, essentially, which is expensive. And at the same time, I appreciate it, because if they're trying to bump up the quality and they're willing to take that financial hit to do it, I appreciate it. Did I really say George Lopez? Did I really say that, folks? Oh my God. That's embarrassing. I am so sorry. I'm so bad at names. You guys do know this, right? I'm terrible at remembering names. Who am I thinking of? Beloved comic book creator. Who am I thinking of? If I said now I can only think that name, George Lopez. I did say it. Great. Yep. Everybody's confirming I made that mistake. Now that's the only name I can think of. Who was I thinking of, folks? Who created White Tiger? I did not mean Jennifer Lopez. Thank you, folks. Thank you. I meant George Perez. Thank you. And I'm sorry, George Perez. Oh my God. That makes me sound so much dumber than I think I am. But I just cannot remember names for the life of me. George Perez. Jumping back to the news, the Daredevil show has now hired a showrunner, which almost every TV show typically has, but Marvel had been running it more like a movie and just having a head writer. But anyway, they let go their head writer and they've hired Dario Scardapane. I'm just guessing. He is the showrunner. He previously worked on Netflix's 2 seasons of The Punisher, but I don't know if we should hold that against him. And they've hired new directors. They're going to try to save a bunch of footage, which, according to the Scoopster, Can We Get Some Toast? The show will feature multiple versions of White Tiger. If that's to be believed, my best guess would be that Hector Ayala, who was the original White Tiger, may be passing the mantle down to his daughter, Aya. It's just a guess. Why run their show like a movie? Well, that's what they've decided that was not working necessarily. So, there used to be the TV division of Marvel and the film division. And that was kind of why you didn't see things like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. crossing over completely fluently with the movies. It was kind of a one-way street anyway, at least with the Netflix shows, right? The Netflix shows sort of vaguely alluded to the movies, but the movies certainly didn't do anything to confirm the existence of those Netflix shows. Now they are more integrated because Marvel Studios is running everything, but they they were running them all like movies, even though they were TV shows. But that's why you're starting to see, like, for instance, the Scarlet Witch stuff from WandaVision played a little bit into Doctor Strange and so on. Yeah. The villains are Siegfried and Roy. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. But yeah, like now we've got, Daredevil popping up in the Spider-Man movie for a cameo. He popped up for a couple episodes of She-Hulk, which I thought was pretty fun. And I would love to see a flat-out Daredevil movie, but we'll see. Showrunners, what's next? Writers' rooms, then putting them on live television for a wider audience, then forming some sort of network around these shows. I mean, they basically do have something like that with either ABC or whatever, because Disney owns that. But yeah, so we'll see. Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, some of the things were explicitly referencing the movies, like, but it was always in the background. Like, if you looked in the background, the newspapers would say, the Avengers save Manhattan, or the Hulk destroys Harlem. But on the TV shows, they'd always be like, yo, the big green guy, the Patriot with the shield. They just like keep it really vague. I don't know. It's frustrating. At the same time, I do think that the overall quality for the Netflix stuff was pretty good. I think that the Daredevil show was quite good. I really like Daredevil. The first season of Jessica Jones was really, really good. That was really, really good too. And Daredevil I liked a lot. This is something that just seems up my alley. I loved Planetary. I like the world of Batman. Looks like DC has found a way to marry the two in a way that might make some sense. But this week, we got some confirmation, basically, that is what's happening. We had our suspicions before based on this image, but now we have some confirmation. And if you don't know, Planetary was a series that was published through Wildstorm, written by Warren Ellis, drawn by John Cassaday, and it had 3 people investigating sort of historical mysteries, and it would always basically be a riff on some sort of famous hero or science fiction. They'd come across characters that were like the archetype of Godzilla. They specifically did come across Batman, multiple Batmans, but also things like, analogs for the Lone Ranger or Green Hornet, things like that. That's what they investigated. And now we've got this image, but this is like Batwoman here in the front. This is Luke Fox, Lucius Fox's son, in the world of Batman. And this character, everyone's like, well, that looks like the drummer, except it's a female, and then the original drummer was a male, but that looks like the drummer. So anyway, solicitations for issue 3 of Outsiders is confirming that this is the drummer. So here's the solicitation. Oh, I covered it up a little. Whoops. Let's see if I can read through this. Only 2 things are certain about the mysterious door that has appeared in the Outsiders ship. The first, it was opened by the drummer using a set of multiversal coordinates discovered in a dream. The second, their computers have identified it only as a narrative singularity. For most, to step through such a door would be unthinkable, even insane, which makes it a perfect mission for the Outsiders. As Kate Kane and Luke Fox venture into the unknown reaches of the multiverse, they will fall deeper and deeper into a maze of darkness, guided by unfamiliar versions of familiar faces. What is this strange world they've discovered? How are they connected to it? And who is lurking in the shadows, ready to destroy it all? So, the riff here is that they will be coming across similar sort of story types, but they will be doing it within the multiverse framework of DC. So we'll see. We'll see. Could work. Could work. Wait, how would this be woke? I don't understand what's woke about this as a sci-fi idea. I'm missing something. Maybe that was a joke. I'm a drummer, so it drove me nuts how Cassidy didn't know how to draw holding drumsticks correctly, but in general, art was great. I didn't pick up on that. This has nothing to do with the original Planetary. I mean, it's not the original Planetary characters, but it's that triumvirate investigating narrative stories and the meaning behind them. So it's a riff on that. It's an interesting idea. It's an interesting idea. I love Planetary. I don't need a sequel to it. That was a good, complete story by one set of creators. I do recommend it. I think it's cool. I would be curious to see what they do with this concept of having that sort of triumvirate investigating the meaning behind stories and characters and stuff. So we'll see. Where's Jon Snow? Did he die like Jenny Sparks since they're both century babies? I think that is the implication that like, they were each what they called century babies, and now we are in a new century. That shows how long ago it's been. We'll see. We'll see. Oh, as a huge G.I. Joe fan, this is a coincidence that I'm wearing this, but as a huge G.I. Joe fan, I was excited to see this. Larry Hama, who is the guy that really created most of what we know about G.I. Joe in terms of the actual characters, backgrounds, and personalities, and a lot of their stories because of his work on the comic book. He got a chance to fix some dialogue, fix it back to what he originally intended. So let me go over the story here on the left before I review the panels. First of all, Skybound now has the rights to G.I. Joe, and they're doing a new iteration of G.I. Joe that's connected to Transformers, but they are also continuing Larry Hama's original run. He did 150 issues, maybe it was 151, but it was like 150 issues or so at Marvel. Eventually, he started working at IDW and continued that through issue 299. Now, issue 300 continues that same continuity. It is just now at Skybound. Hey, Chuck. Always good to see you, pal. And someday I will catch up with you because I brought you back something from Japan. But so anyway, in addition to that, they're going to reprint some of these comics the way Larry Hama originally wanted them to be printed. And the first thing we're starting with is on November 15th, he's going to get to revise the very end of issue 1. So this is what Larry Hama wrote. He said, "Sincere thanks to Skybound for allowing me to restore Hawk's original speech to the Joes in A Real American Hero #1. In their new special reprint. This has stuck in my craw for decades. This was the reason I never rewrote any script that passed through my editorial office." Larry Hama was an editor on stuff like Conan and a bunch of other important books at Marvel for many, many years. Larry continues, "Always gave the writers the option to rewrite themselves. Same thing with the art. I always hated it when I saw redrawn heads that weren't even close to the original style. I think this is a courtesy rarely extended these days." Without even asking him, Marvel had changed this final panel originally. So basically, this is how issue 1 ends. They were supposed to save a scientist named Dr. Burkhart, who none of the Joes really liked. They didn't like her politics, but she was a valuable scientist, and the government had G.I. Joe rescue her from Cobra. That was their very first mission. It was something they didn't necessarily want to do themselves, but they always do their job and do it the best. And Scarlet's saying, "Snake Eyes is signaling me that he wants to know, how can the rights of an individual compared to the safety of the entire world? Wouldn't a B-52 bombing raid solve this problem with less risk?" And Hawk replies, "No, we're the good guys, remember? This island has a civilian population. Besides, it's not our job to judge Dr. Burkhart. What is our job?" And this is the edited version. "We're soldiers. Our job is to follow orders, to do the impossible, and make it look easy." But what Larry wrote originally was a little more cynical. He says, "We're soldiers. Our job is to do the unthinkable and be forgotten." Larry was, an active duty service member that served in country during Vietnam. He has, a way of doing this, and I appreciated that the GI Joe comic had some real stakes to it. People did get hurt and died. This was war and terrorism and stuff. So it's really cool. It's really cool to see that that was just the angle he wanted to put out there. Uh, and it just also I think that Larry had the right way of doing things as an editor. We talk about this a little in the interview I got to do with him. He always went to the creators if he felt that there needed to be a change, and he said, like, I think we need to change this, but I want you to actually do it. He didn't just last minute have somebody redraw or rewrite something. So another thing I know that bothered him a lot is the famous silent issue of G.I. Joe. Number 21 has a coloring mistake where a guy pulls a manhole cover on top of himself, but the light source is just borked. It's weird. So I think that one will probably be redone too at some point. I mean, that's a pretty famous issue, so they'll probably reprint that. Yeah, a military mindset. Yeah. You say Time Lee. I'd say time less. I'd say his G.I. Joe run holds up very, very well. Yeah, he knows how people would talk. But anyway, coloring mistake were par for the course back in the day. They were. But it just bothers him. Keep in mind that issue 21, Larry didn't just write, he drew it. And he drew it to be a silent issue because they were behind on the schedule. And so he just took it on himself to catch up by drawing an entire issue that would have no dialogue. It would speed up the process because they wouldn't have to letter it and everything. It's a really impressive bit of storytelling that someday I'm going to make an episode about silent comics. It's really cool. Yeah, there's when IDW had the rights, they definitely were collecting into trade paperbacks his entire run. And now that Skybound has it, I'm sure that they'll again collect his entire run. I'm sure they will. I haven't heard that, but I'm sure they will. Do you think there are any plans? I don't know, but I think that there will be. I think. Is that why they did it? I thought that was so cool and artistic back in the day. Yes, primarily that silent issue was done just to catch up. They were running late on their deadline, so Larry took it on himself to not just write it, but draw it and cut out the lettering. Although, as I recall, and I'll have to fact check this, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. He did still have, like, a letterer do the titles on page 1, and I'm pretty sure he was able to get them paid for a full comic book, as though they lettered 22 pages. I'm pretty sure. Larry looked out for people. Jim, lovely to see you. I don't know if you're still in Belgium, but let's see. The silent interlude issue blew my mind as a kid. It's some of Larry's best art, and it's amazing how much story it tells and is so action-packed, and there's no dialogue. It really that was the moment. Issue 21 is like the moment where all of a sudden G.I. Joe went from sort of being a pretty interesting action adventure series to introducing some elements that were going to imply a deeper past and lore to some of the characters. They imply that there's a connection between Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes, and that was something that had never been introduced before. I might pick up the Micronauts Omnibus. I love Michael Golden art. That would be the main reason to do that. That would be the main reason. I believe that there was a silent issue with Ultimate Spider-Man, and I'm pretty sure that Larry Hama did at least 2 other silent issues in the future, but it was more of like an exercise at that point than to catch up with a deadline. But yeah, we'll talk about it someday. Are the comics a great way to get into G.I. Joe, or should I watch the original cartoon? They're honestly very different. They're both fun in their own way. The cartoon is way more sort of sci-fi and aimed at kids. People don't really get hurt too bad in that. The comic gets a lot more serious. Yeah, there are more stakes involved in the comics. There are moments towards the end of the Marvel run where the toys were kind of like not awesome. They were kind of neon. So, and the art that they used towards the end of the Marvel run wasn't great, but the story's still very good. And it picks way up when IDW gets the rights. I prefer the comic book strongly over the cartoon, but that's me. That's me. Moving on. This will be big news when it happens, but this was announced now. Marvel's teaming up with Hasbro for Magic the Gathering. Pretty popular collectible card game. I'm pretty sure most of you know what that is. Let's see. Uh, you almost have that right, Crichton. Stephen King wrote the bios for Crystal Ball and Sneak Peek. And he named Sneak Peek after his son, Owen. Not Dr. Mindbender. It was Crystal Ball and Sneak Peek because his son, Owen, was a big fan of G.I. Joe, and Stephen King wrote the bios for those two characters. But let me get back to Magic the Gathering. So Marvel and Hasbro announced this week that they're going to collaborate on an edition of that hugely successful collectible card trading card game in 2025. So it's amazing that they're announcing it already. We are literally almost 2 years away. But they are going to do that. And they promised that there's going to be future sets, that this is a multi-year, multi-edition agreement. And this follows Magic the Gathering doing crossover sets with other sort of brands. They've done Dungeons and Dragons. They're about to do Doctor Who, Assassin's Creed. I'm pretty sure Final Fantasy is in there. I'm sure you guys can think of some others that I'm not thinking of. Lord of the Rings, right? There was a period where I played some Magic the Gathering. I had a coworker in like 2003 at a job who was pretty into it, and he introduced me to it. And yeah, we would play every day at lunch. We'd have lunch together and play a couple rounds of Magic. It's a good game. It really is a fun game. But I haven't played in a long time. When we got different jobs, I stopped playing anyway. So I haven't played for a long time, but I like that game. Let's see. I know Magic the Gathering Mage fans aren't a huge fan of the new branded stuff, but Lord of the Rings and now Marvel have gotten me to buy Magic again for the first time since high school back in the 90s. I agree. I probably will get a Marvel Magic the Gathering set and probably get some of the cards. There's rules, but as soon as you understand the rules, the order of gameplay, it does become a very fun game. And it is a different game every time because there's some randomness to what you draw, what the other person draws, and there's some strategy because you still build the deck. You're allowed to put a certain number of certain types of cards in each deck. So, oh, Mega. Okay. I didn't know for sure. Anyway, yeah, let's see. With Hasbro is determined to fleece their consumer base. Oh, maybe. Maybe. I liked it. I haven't played it in over a decade. I'd need to be refreshed, but I might give it a shot. I might give it a shot, especially where it's not coming out for a long time. You know what works about it is the gameplay mechanics are very strong. So you can do a lot with them to change the individual cards, but the gameplay mechanics hold up. What did you eat while you were in Japan? Oh, well, that's a fun question. All sorts of stuff. Tried a little bit of seafood. Didn't really care for it because I don't really like seafood, but I tried. Chrissy liked the mackerel. Okay. Had a lot of curry. That's what I did. I had a lot of curry. They do curry well over there. What else did I try that was kind of unique? I don't know, just some street vendor like skewers of meat and stuff. It's a little tricky for me since I'm trying, I try not to have sugary or carby stuff. So, I wouldn't go too nuts on certain things, but it was fun. Thanks for asking. And thanks for the super chat. I played Magic in the late 90s. My main problem is how expensive these cards are for me. Even got a great competitive cards. You need to spend a lot of money. You know what my friend and I did? We'd buy some of the cards that we wanted. And if we wanted to, just between the two of us, play with a card that was really expensive, we weren't going to pay that money. We'd print it out and just sort of put it in a card sleeve with a Magic card so that it looked like a Magic card. And for us, we just had an agreement that like you could do that on certain games. Because you're right, like it can be very expensive to get certain rare cards that play well, and that we didn't have a lot of interest in doing that. But yeah, so that's how we changed it up. Okonomo Okonomiyaki. I did not have one of those savory pancakes this time, but I have before. Very good. I have seen Marvel Spider-Man 2. I don't know about greatest superhero game ever. It's very, very good. Very, very playable. I did 100% it, actually. I have 100%ed it. I'll be talking about it in the news, so I'm going to hold off. Okay? McFarland Toys is making some Pacific Rim action figures that will be packaged with comic books. I love that Pacific Rim movie. The first one is like, the second one's okay. I'd call it okay. Some people really dislike it. I'd call it okay. First one's great. First one's legit awesome. For the 10th anniversary, I can't believe that it's been 10 years, but for the 10th anniversary of Pacific Rim, McFarland Toys is releasing 4-inch scale Jaeger and Kaiju figures that are bundled with a Pacific Rim Tales from the Drift comic book or a Pacific Rim Aftermath comic book. Listen to what you get in this. Somebody says, what sequel? There was a sequel. Oh, and there was that Netflix animated series. That wasn't too bad either. That wasn't too bad. But I wish they made a bunch. What I wouldn't give to see a Jaeger go up against some of the kaiju in the Godzilla movies. You know, go up against Rodan or Megaguirus or something like that. That would be awesome. Magra. These figures will have 8 points of articulation. They will each come with a 4-piece building. Basically, you can like break it and rebuild it. 2 mini vehicles, tanks, jets, that kind of thing, and a piece of a street section. So you can connect these buildings together to sort of make a little bit of a city that the kaiju and Jaegers can fight through. And so you get a comic book, 4-inch figure, little bit of a play set, $20. I feel like that's a good value. 4 inches, pretty small. Don't expect extreme detail or articulation. Sounds kind of fun. I might get one and open it up on the show or something to see if it's any good. That we'll see. You like Pacific Rim Black? Yeah, Pacific Rim Black was good. Pacific Rim still has the best opening. Less than 10 minutes, they set everything up we hate about the first film and go straight into the world of kaiju. Set up everything we hate about the first film? I don't get it. Let's see. If Todd makes Shape of Water figures, I will buy them. That was a good movie. That was a good movie. 4 inches is not small. 4 inches. Sure. 4 inches is a good size. 4 inches. 4 inches is impressive. 4 inches is big. 4 inches is perfectly average. There you go. I clicked that too fast. Let's see. What crossover would you like to see that hasn't been done yet? I mean, the one that's in my head right now would be some Jaegers versus Godzilla, and then maybe Mecha Godzilla and some Jaegers and Godzilla team up against a whole bunch of monsters. You know, Kumanga and stuff like that. That could be fun. That could be a lot of fun. Craig Kyle made Pacific Rim the Black Series. Oh, did he? Okay, right on. Yeah, I'd love to see more of Pacific Rim. So, you know, who knows? Maybe if these toys did well, we'd get a few more comics or an animated show or something that could get us back to more movies. I feel like that's a movie concept that's simple enough that it should be able to continue. We'll see. We'll see. A Supergirl actress is writing a DC comic. So the actress in question is Nicole Maines, and apparently she played the superhero Dreamer on the Supergirl show that used to be on CW. I have to admit, I think I only watched the first maybe 2 seasons of Supergirl, so I'm not familiar with like the some of the characters that were there at the end of the show. But Nicole has now written a young adult comic about the character that she played. So this is a description. Nia Nal is half alien, half human, who often struggles to learn how to use her dream based prophetic powers, which she inherited from her Naltorian mother. Nia's journey as an alien and a trans woman on Supergirl were significant to her character's growth, and Main's promises the same will hold true of her comic's origin. I don't know. I just thought that's kind of cool when somebody plays a character and then gets a chance to write them. I don't know if it would always work, but I was very impressed with Paul Dano's Riddler series. I think that thing was a good ass comic. I really do recommend Riddler Year One by Paul Dano. That is a good comic, folks. Yeah, you know what? That is a good cover. That is a good cover. Good call. There's a lot to like about it. Uh is that Dream Girl from Legion of Superheroes kid? I think it's a riff on that idea, but I didn't watch the show, so I don't know if they tied that in specifically. So yeah, great cover. Oh, I heard that Danny DeVito's Penguin comic was bad. I did not read that one. Maybe I should. Maybe that would be fun. I haven't reviewed a flat out bad comic in a long time. Although sometimes I do think about the reviewing the Batman Fortnite comic. That was a painful one. Well, it was more like I shouldn't say Batman Fortnite because I think there was a Batman Fortnite comic that was fine. I'm talking about one that was by what's the name of that clan? FaZe Clan. Batman FaZe Clan is the one I'm talking about. It's ridiculously bad. That could be fun. No, I don't think it's been collected in trade paperback yet. Like I think it was only like about just over a month ago that the final issue of that came out. So not yet, but probably before the end of the year or January, somewhere close to that. Yeah. Joker comic. Have you read the Joker comic that John Carpenter? Do you mean John Carpenter made or something like that? Yeah, not talking about Batman Fortnite, talking about Batman FaZe Clan, just to be clear. Just to be clear. So yeah. She was in like fourth season. The problem with the CW series, it's like 24 episodes a season. You miss a couple and it's all over the place. Yeah, I think we've moved beyond the days where we expect 22 and 24 episode seasons. It's wild to think that there were some shows that legit could be good with that many episodes cranked out a year, because that is a tremendous amount of content to crank out when you think about it. Uh, I really like the Star Trek show Deep Space Nine. It's a little dated, but by season 3 or so, it gets really good all the way to the end. And they would have seasons where they made, I think, as many as 26 episodes a season, which is just an insane amount of stuff to film. It's just crazy, just wild. Thank you for the super chat. I think we're witnessing the slow death of the superhero film genre. It's hard to say. I've got a different perspective. I've grown up and there was hardly any superhero TV or movie stuff. In 1989 when Batman came out, that was a big deal. I stuff like Superman had come out, before I was, reading comics and stuff, but it was few and far between. It was few and far between. There is a lot now. But I think it's established itself more as a genre that could be here for a while, and individual movies might rise and fall. But I think as a genre, I don't think that adapting superhero content is quite going to go away, because I think they've sort of cracked the code on how to make it at least watchable popcorn entertainment. At least that. If not occasionally a little better. Like I would say, something like Dark Knight rises to the level of gritty crime fiction. It's cool. Hey, Steve, nice to see you. Thank you very much for the super chat. And yeah, if you guys can hit like on this before you forget, like that really does help the show. I could be wrong, Lord Luke Lightbringer. I could be wrong. Maybe people are getting burnt out on superhero stuff. I definitely think Marvel needs to focus on its overall quality, or they could lose that sort of stranglehold they have. They're in danger. But I don't think that superhero movies are going to go away anytime soon. I really don't. I think sometimes something just becomes an established thing. We'll see. That's an interesting take. Yeah, there are certain things you could call a superhero film. I could call Darkman by Sam Raimi. That's basically a superhero film. I think that's what got him Spider-Man eventually. So there are other things that you could call a superhero film that aren't based on comics. We'll see. We'll see. Uh, the overall quality does need to sort of be there. There needs to be a consistency. It's my birthday yesterday. I am mid-30s now. Happy birthday, Steve. I'm giving you a pros and cons weekly Spinnerack birthday shout out. I'd call it more of a subgenre if I'm really thinking about it, because you're right. Superhero is really just sort of a sci-fi idea. It's hard to call that a genre in and of itself. Something like The Crow compared to Justice League compared to I don't know what's a funnier one, like Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, that Guardians of the Galaxy almost has more in common with, say, a Star Wars movie, but that's funny than superheroes. But they are all superheroes, so it's more of a subgenre. More of a subgenre. Your ibuprofen's in the mail. You guys are good. You guys are good. RoboCop. RoboCop is basically a superhero movie. Sin City is a comic book movie. I wouldn't call it a superhero movie. All right. As long as we're talking about books, like, because that's a young adult comic book graphic novel, but like, it's more the book side of things. I wanted to talk about Scholastic because Scholastic has been in the news in the past week, and I don't think that they've nailed it yet. They basically reversed how they were segregating some of their books, sort of. It's a little weaker than you might think. Let me explain. First of all, Scholastic as a publisher is massive, and a lot of the books that they do are technically comic books. We've got the stuff by Raina Telgemeier. We've got Leon by Jamar Nichols. We've got books like I've sort of screen capped here, showing some of the characters from Wakanda in the Marvel universe. They hold 120,000 book fairs every year in schools and libraries across the country. I loved them as a kid. Loved the book fairs. They were exciting. But they've quietly had a certain thing where schools and libraries could opt out of getting any books sold there that would be considered diverse. Anything that would have, gay characters or minority characters, schools could just quietly hit the option, don't show those. Not awesome in a way. Not awesome. Oh, wow. Peter Weller's an adjunct professor at Syracuse? I didn't know that. Good for him. Good for him. Oh, yeah. I don't know that they don't have the overall rights, but they do still print reprints of Bone. Absolutely. Yeah. Jeff Smith works with them. They produce a lot of good comics, just to be clear. Like, what is it? Nate the Great? Those are some comics. The Scholastic does a bunch. They might do Dogman. I don't know. But a bunch of their books that they'll sell to kids, the schools and libraries have the option to say, no thanks to those. There's like 65 popular books. And some of them, like, you look at and you're like, what would be objectionable about that? Some of it is about like history and stuff. On Tuesday, this past Tuesday, Ellie Berger is the Scholastic's president of trade publishing, and she released a big statement. I didn't want to reread the whole thing, but basically saying that they will no longer segregate their books aimed at, LGBTQ and BIPOC students, that there is value in having that material for these kids that might be considered more at risk of things like bullying or depression in, say, the Deep South as one example, right? So instead of like they would make all of their books available to the kids that they currently have in print, not just sort of segregate out the ones aimed at ethnically diverse kids or gay kids, like, which is just crazy. So that's what she said. But just to be clear, the next day, Wednesday, Scholastic, the company, issued a statement that they're still working on finding a solution. which sounds to me like they're walking that back a little. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. This is something that they've been doing kind of quietly. They didn't like announce that they were ever segregating this. They never had like a press release. Nobody called them out on it until recently. So we'll see. We will see. I agree. Wait, they have the option to not offer them for sale to their kids. Yes. The basically whoever is in charge at the library or the school system that's, coordinating with Scholastic has the ability to say, like, just sort of check a box, and about 65 books are just shunted away from them having out there on the tables or in the little flyers to let kids look at. They just didn't want to get in trouble or get controversy like with parent teachers, not parent teachers, just parent groups. I hope that they don't walk it back. It just seems to me that Wednesday's statement by Scholastic that they're still looking for a solution sort of indicates that, like, they haven't actually committed to putting all their books back available to everybody. Yeah, schools can literally tell Scholastic no books about minorities, and they've just done this quietly for many years. Which also isn't really fair to, when you think about it, a lot of the authors that they work with. That's costing them potential royalties and stuff. I think that if the authors knew that this was a regular policy, they might have been like, yeah, wait a minute, wait. You're printing my book and putting it in bookstores, but you're like not offering it to schools and libraries. There's a lot of money there. So we'll see. She may have just said more than they were ready to make official yet. I guess, but she is a president. She's that goes through a bunch of channels to get approved, and her statement was like 3 paragraphs long. It was no small thing. So, and by the way, I've worked on some books that you guys may not have seen in many comic book stores, but they sold tremendously well to libraries and school systems. Because I've illustrated some anthology comics that are what you might call more educational. Books about colonial America, books written by Native Americans about their tribe's version of the trickster legend. That one I'm still proud of it, nominated for an Eisner. So, like, these are books that you guys wouldn't necessarily, like, I don't talk about it a whole lot because the average person it probably hasn't seen them in their comic shop, but they sold really well. So who knows? I feel like you'd be hard pressed to find a book that truly can corrupt or ruin a person. If they're smart enough to read it, they might not get everything about it, but reading is not an easy, lazy thing. Reading takes some effort to comprehend and just to invest the time. And I just don't think the average person is going to read a book and then, pick up a knife or start hurting someone unless those kind of impulses were already in them. I don't think a book causes people to do bad things. It can give them potentially, I guess, some bad ideas, but I think that they're already primed to look for that kind of stuff to support them. So there could be bad books. I'm not saying there can't. I would say in general, even a book aimed at an older audience is unlikely to truly like ruin a kid. I just don't think that. But you know what? Just to be clear, I'm not a parent, so I haven't seen things from that perspective. I haven't had to think about things. I've got the ability to say I haven't looked at it that way. So I'm not saying I'm perfect. I just tend not to think that a book can really hurt somebody. Marvel has been known to corrupt plenty of people. If you don't know, Marvel is a terrible comic book. That's all. It's just terrible. This is some of our first look at the Spider-Man Octopus Girl manga, which is now available in Japan. So, there is a new manga issued through Shueisha's Jump Comics Plus app, only in Japanese, just to be clear. And what it is it's a story that features middle schooler Otaha, and she's about 8 or 9, okay? And she and Dr. Octopus have to get used to living in a single body. Essentially, the story is Dr. Octopus is fighting Spider-Man. Somehow there's an accident and Dr. Octopus dies, except he wakes up in the mind of this young girl. But it isn't like Superior Spider-Man where he takes over, okay? He's just in there, and they don't present anything necessarily creepy. Instead, this is a girl who's getting bullied, and Dr. Octopus is basically pushed to try to sort of redeem himself by helping this girl stand up for herself. It's very weird. It's some isekai stuff. They play fast and loose with how it's all presented. It's really weird. So yeah, it's only available in Japan for now. It is by Betancourt, who you may know from doing the work on My Hero Academia Vigilantes, which is definitely popular. That's the spin-off book. Really good artist. Really good artist. So I don't know. It's up to you if this is your kind of thing. It sounds weird enough that I am curious. But we'll see. Yeah, exactly. Doc Ock gets hit by a truck. I don't know what happens to him specifically. I haven't read it. Yeah, she's got the bowl cut. Exactly. No, I don't think while this could potentially, of course, be like weird and stuff, I think that there are ways to do it as that don't get into anything weird. Well, that don't get into anything perverted, maybe I should say. It's just weird. Marvel's deadliest hero, Truck-kun. Oh, yeah, because a truck would kill him. So, look, there's definitely some cultural differences there. Let me keep moving because I've got some comics to talk about and I'd really like to draw. Spider-Man 2. That was a very fun video game, but it is getting a bit of backlash over the lack of credit for the comic creators. Yeah. I'll get into these screen caps here in just a sec. Let me talk about some of this news. So, unlike the Guardians of the Galaxy video game, which was made by the Eidos Montreal team, the new Marvel Spider-Man 2 by Insomniac Games doesn't seem to have any credits for the comic book creators. Sounds like something they might want to do a patch for, in my opinion. Having played it, I won't tell you what happens, but it does take story elements from both the J.M. DeMatteis, Mike Zeck, Craven's Last Hunt story arc, as well as the more recent Donny Cates, Ryan Stegman, King in Black, Venom story arc. A lot of original characters, even by people that are like really recent, like Dan Slott. So yeah, and then well, I'll get to the confusing side stream. So let me say, no, you have not missed me talking about the Ultimate Spider-Man news. That's coming up real soon. So let's see. Sorry, there's a super chat. Awk manga reminds me of Shuzo Oshimi's Inside Mari. I haven't read that one, but thank you for the super chat. Anyway, somebody said Insomniac better have paid Cates and Stegman for Spider-Man 2. Like, it's kind of genuinely really shitty if they didn't see anything for this game. There's hardly any Venom stuff, to be honest, but what there is ripped straight from their work. Donny Cates replied to that with a gif of Tom Hardy when he was on press tour for Venom, just sort of going like, it seems to imply that no, these guys did not get paid. And, you know, you kind of know that going in, but is it the right thing to do? It's not great. It's not great. And none of it is one for one, by the way. So you're really not exactly getting spoiled. At the same time, this is based a lot of characters and some history on some of the more recent comics, but also some of the older stuff like Kraven's Last Hunt. What was that? That was the 80s. Really good game. Really good game. Uh, Guardians of the Galaxy, though, if you ever clicked on a character, for instance, not even getting to the end credits, if you just clicked on a character, it would give you a bio and tell you who created that character and like what the first issue was. It was a fun, cool way to look at that. And this is a game that has a lot of collectibles and side missions. So you've got like a menu system for that. It would not have been very hard to like have character bios and like say which artists and writers worked on this character originally. It would not have been hard to do that. And I would have liked looking at stuff like that. For instance, I don't know the character Negative Man that well. I know him, but I don't know him that well. I would have been interested in reading a little bio about him and who created him. As an example, I love Kraven's Last Hunt. I talk that up to a lot of people. I would love it if that got a shout out and got some more attention to people that probably just don't know about a story that now would be considered older. I would have liked it. I would have liked it a lot. There's one more thing that it has. There's a confusing side mission cutscene in the game, and I mention it because it actually introduces a character from the Spider-Verse movies, sort of. It's a character named Delilah, and you watch it, and you're like, okay, I see a portal that looks like the Across the Spider-Verse movies, but who is Delilah? Well, that character was in Beyond the Spider-Verse, but they cut her before it was released. So now you do this, and you're like, I don't see this connection at all. It doesn't make any sense unless you know that that character was meant to be in the movies and was cut out. So I won't tell you what mission or exactly what happens, but there is a thing you might come across if you 100% the game where you'll be like, was I supposed to get what just happened? Because it feels like something's missing. Anyway, there's a very tiny like reference to it. Yeah. It was probably meant to be a more integrated thing that they just cut out of the movie. So, very tiny. Sorry to all you PC gamers. I did play it on Sony PlayStation. Whoa, super chat. Hey Chris, I've been rewatching 80s Ninja Turtles, and I just realized that Uncle Phil was Shredder and the rabbi from Curb Your Enthusiasm was Donatello. Yes, yes, you are correct on both counts. I can't believe it. Happy Devil's Night. Fire it up! Fire it up! Fire it up! I assume that was the reference, right? The crow? Um, yeah. Yeah, I recognized that voice back in the day fairly early on and was all like, it's all I hear now is Uncle Phil being mad at at the turtles, always saying like, "Tonight I dine on turtle soup." Phil, no wait, he was Uncle Phil. He'd be like, "Will, get the car back." I don't know what he'd say, but yeah, I know the rabbi you're talking about from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Yes, good catches, good catches. I love that Spider-Verse connection. It was cool. It is cool that it's connected. It would have been cooler if they actually had, say, a character that we recognized from the movie appear in it. But whatever. I know Donatello as Fish's son. Who is Fish? I don't get that reference. I don't know. I don't know. Happy Devil's Night, everyone. If you haven't read the Obar run, do it. Yeah, maybe I should have been promoting my old episode about the Crow today, but yeah. Moving on. I just have a few more pieces of news. Let's talk about this. I think that the response to this seems to be very positive. But Spider-Man's marriage to Mary Jane Watson specifically is going to return in the comics. Now, it is not returning in the main 616 continuity. Let's get that clear. But it is returning in Marvel Comics. Fish from Barney Miller. Oh, I never watched Barney Miller, but thank you for explaining that to me. So, Marvel has revealed that the whole idea behind their new iteration of Ultimate Spider-Man, which will be by Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto, is that Peter's happily married. This is a slightly older Spider-Man. Not old, but slightly older. Not a brand new young Spider-Man or a new Spider-Man. This is going to have Peter Parker and Mary Jane happily married with 2 children. I think that this is something a lot of fans sort of want. They want to see a little bit of evolution in Peter Parker's life. I did see some people on social media going, "It doesn't matter to me because it's not in the main continuity." To and I guess I must have a different take than some people, because to me that just doesn't matter. To me, it's all fictional stories. Like, it's not like one is somehow more valid than another. I want a good story by good creators. I happen to like Jonathan Hickman and Marco Cicchetto, so I'm looking forward to seeing this take. There's also a lot of people that grew up, though, with Mary Jane and Peter as a couple, because that happened a while back that they originally got married. There are a lot of people that grew up on that. I started reading Spider-Man a little before that, and it was kind of funny. I'll just do a tangent here. The marriage to Mary Jane Watson happened very fast in the comics. Mary Jane was, yes, always a serious girlfriend of Peter Parker, but he had a lot of people that he was kind of serious with, and he was, at the time that he got married, he was actually a little more serious with Felicia Hardy in most of the comic books. But Stan Lee decided that he wanted to get them married in the comic strip that he wrote. So Marvel said, "You know what? Let's have our comic book match up." So very quickly, within just a few months, Peter went from dating Felicia Hardy to getting back with Mary Jane, proposing, and getting married. So to me, like, I do think Mary Jane is a great partner. She's interesting. She's cool. But it was always a little weird how quickly that happened. If you were reading comics at the time, and I don't know how many people out here were reading at that specific time, there was a big change. Like, the marriage to Mary Jane was very fast, but it worked. It did work. I think it's a good partnership. By the way, I really do like the version of Mary Jane in the video game, the Spider-Man 2 video game. She works as a reporter, and she gets a lot more hands-on in the adventures. I kind of like that a lot. Let's see. John Dorsey, thank you for the super chat. I'm 0-3 in a Magic the Gathering queue tonight, but 1-0 in my choice of comic book live streams. Thank you for watching, man. Appreciate it. Do you ever wish we got more of Peter with Betty Brant or Liz Allen? No, I don't necessarily. I think that, like, a lot of people should have a few, dates or early partners that aren't meant to be the one. I think it makes sense that he dated some of these girls. They're fine. They weren't the perfect match for him. I think that Felicia Hardy could also make a good match, to be clear. I do. Mary Jane is good. I do think he benefits from having lost somebody like Gwen Stacy. I think that's a good character beat. So that one doesn't break me up too much. But yeah, just to be clear, in the comics, he was married to Mary Jane for a significant amount of time. So I'm sure a lot of people grew up with that as what they think of for Peter Parker's life, and they want to see that go to the next level. And I do too. I think that One More Day was a really bad storyline, and you can have people separate or divorce without having to have, like, deals with the devil. But I'm curious to see Peter as a father. I think that that's something that could be very interesting. Well, I mean, we've seen little bits of it in certain stories, right? Got Renew Your Vows from Secret Wars was a look at that idea. Got a little bit of that from the old Spider-Girl series that was set in the future. Got a little bit of it with the animated movies where Peter B. Parker now has a baby. But I think that it'll be good to see an ongoing comic book really take a look at this aspect of his life. Am I misunderstanding the announcement, or are they saying that this Peter is getting his spider powers late in life? No. I believe that the implication is that he has been Spider-Man for a while, that this is, like, probably he's been a superhero for a little bit longer than some of the rest of the universe has had superheroes. I think. We'll see. We'll see. Yep, Spider-Man life story. A lot of people just shouted out. You're right. There are takes on it, and it's interesting, but they've always meant to be short stories. This one is meant to be an ongoing look at that, and I think it's a good idea. I think it's good. You're right. That is a great point. As somebody that wore a mask by running around as a superhero, will say, like, there are scenes that I see in comic books and comic book movies that I go, that's not how that works. And a lot of it has to do with a mask. Because I'll tell you, a superhero, say, like, gets knocked off a pier into the water. You are getting waterboarded at that point. It would, like, freak you out. But superheroes always get knocked into the water and don't really freak out and rip their mask off. But you would. It would, like, if your mask is wet and you're starting to inhale a little bit of that water, you're going to freak it out. You're going to freak out. Your body just will shut down on you. It's weird. It's weird because I've done that in the rain and it was rough. I don't think we know the kids' names yet. No, I don't think we know yet. You know what? Sometimes you just have to overlook the logic in superheroes and say, every once in a while, cool beats functionality. You know, do I need to see Spider-Man's clunky web shooters? No, I guess I don't. Do I need to see that he has a belt under his spandex? I can get by that. I can get by that because it looks cool. So I'm willing to go with it. I mean, I have to imagine even if they don't initially, that someday they will. It seems like an impossible idea to ignore forever. You jumped in a pool with a Spidey mask on? I mean, it wasn't pleasant, right? It was, yeah. Spider-Man I think you mean Family Man, but maybe he's a family Matt. Everybody walks all over him. Yeah, Captain America's wing ears definitely don't make sense. But you know what? Sometimes it looks cool. Sometimes a cool look can triumph over logic. Sometimes. There's a line. There's a line. Spedman family tie. What is happening with you, EJ? Do you need help? Are you having a stroke? Just type a bunch of nonsense if you are. I'm just kidding. I was very freaked out when I went up for air. Yeah, your body just does something. Your body just does something. It's completely out of your control. Well, I don't think Marvel does hate it if they're finally willing to go back to it. I think Joe Quesada didn't like it. And you know what? Not everybody's idea is always right, but I think Quesada just thought it. I mean, he said as such. He said as much. He said that he felt it made Spider-Man feel too old and not relatable enough for sort of the age bracket that they considered Peter Parker to be. It's all good. It's all good, buddy. So, is there anything else? Yeah, Hickman had a quote. Peter and MJ being married is one of many decisions we had that underline this being quite a different kind of Spider-Man story. I hope it is. I'm ready for something new. We've got the mainstream continuity. Give me this. And I'll be like, a lot of people were resistant to the original Ultimate Comics, but you know what? A lot of them were good. Not all of them, just to be clear. But I did like Ultimate Spider-Man. I liked Ultimate Peter Parker, and I really liked Ultimate Miles, too. And Miles wasn't perfect initially, but he looked good thanks to Sarah Pichelli's art. Miles became a really good character. It took a while, but it's good. That's when it comes out, folks. January 10th, very soon. I would say, after learning this, I am most excited for Ultimate Spider-Man. Ultimate Black Panther and Ultimate X-Men are both things that I didn't expect. They're doing a bunch of unexpected things. So I hope that they really let their creators go nuts. You know, that's what you got to do initially. Take some chances. If it doesn't work, you've got your main continuity to fall back on and say, hey, we tried to experiment and it didn't work for whatever reason. But until then, go nuts. Don't put any real limits on the creators. Let them come up with whatever they want. That's what I say. Speaking of Ultimate Spidey, what are your gold, silver, and bronze, aka top 3 Bendis works? And your general Bendis opinion. Okay. Interesting question. And thank you for the super chat, Joshua. Let me pause for a moment to think that through. My top 3 Bendis. Hmm. I would say I think Powers will end up being my number 1. Yeah, Powers will be my number 1. That will be my gold. Because it's the most original thing, like, out of what my top 3. I really liked it. I would put as number 2 Ultimate Spider-Man. Very long run, really developed the characters in the world. I liked it. And number 3, I'm gonna put his Daredevil run. Some good crime fiction, worked with the right artist to make it work. Those are my top 3. Um, Generally, I like Bendis. Sometimes if I'm reading too much, his dialogue starts to feel a little samey, but when I don't read it a lot, I like it. It stands out a little bit. Um, eh, Not always perfect, but I think I do think he's talented. I think he can do a lot of good stuff. Yep. And thank you, Marvin Nation. There's a huge dissonance between movie Spider and comic Spider, and that's causing issues. Even the video game Spider face got de-aged. Being married does not bode well with the teenager look. I can understand some of those concerns. I think that the Peter Parker in the mainstream continuity is, I think, supposed to be early 30s at this point. I would say that seems reasonable since he was about 15 when the stuff started. But the first few years of Marvel definitely went faster than, like, once they hit the 70s and certainly the 80s, everything slowed way down. Yeah, I think that we might see Ultimate Jessica Drew again. That was a really interesting idea. A clone of Peter, a female clone. That was a good character. Um, yeah, yeah, I totally would say that that's exactly what I'm thinking too. Because I like a lot of Peter David stories too, and I agree that sometimes he just writes everybody being the quipster. Everybody gets to be the Chandler Bing, the Xander Harris, and that doesn't always work for every character. So, moving on though, I've got a couple more things. Oh, I'm so excited about this. I should have put this earlier but I'm getting hyped. Okay. I I love Katsuhiro Otomo. If you haven't read Akira yet, that's a manga I do definitely recommend. I'm really proud of my episode about Akira. I filmed that one in Japan. Doesn't have the most views out of what I made, but I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it because I think it's a really amazing story. Even if you set aside how good the story is, the art is just beyond next level. The detail and the storytelling is incredible. And I think Otomo also brought that to the movie adaptation. Yes, the story is massively condensed and possibly a little confusing the first time, but boy, is that animation smooth. That is some of the best looking anime I've ever seen. A lot, that's I think animated on the twos generally. There's a lot more frames than your typical anime. Really, really good. Well, he's hinted he's coming back. He's done this a couple times to us before. He's not the most prolific creator, but when he creates stuff, it is damn good. So this is something that Otomo Sensei posted. He posted this image. It's like a whiteboard full of notes and stuff, but in the middle here is the most important element. This is the character Kyoko from Akira, a smaller supporting character, one that can sort of see into the future a little. And she's saying, I had a dream about, oh, no, I had a dream Otomo Sensei drew a new manga. That's essentially what she's saying, this language here. Below this post, there's this where Otomo is saying Kyoko's prophetic dream will become a reality, essentially. So, Otomo originally said he was going to make a long form story back in 2012, just to be clear. Set in, all we know is it was a story set in a bygone era. Okay, something in the past. That's all we know. That's big. He updated fans back in 2018, saying that he was working on the manga. It would be a long form manga. thing. Oh, I never added this back. I am so sorry, folks. That's so stupid. Here's the image that Otomo Sensei posted. There's Kyoko. Sorry, everyone. Domo was very interesting, but the very end did feel rushed, like he wanted to get onto the next project, to me. But Domo is worth watching. I am so sorry that I didn't show the image there, folks. So, yeah, sorry. This is what Kyoko is saying. I had a dream Otomo Sensei drew a new manga, and up here, Katsuhiro Otomo is writing, Kyoko's prophetic dream will become a reality. So, we'll see. Yeah, he did. What was that short story called? It's not coming to me right now. I've been trying to think in the back of my head, but if you can remember, that would be good. He's not that old. I think still in early 60s. I'd have to double check. Anyway, I will take any manga Otomo wants to share with us. He has earned my respect with stuff like Domu and Akira. That's awesome. I'm glad that you got that. That's really cool, Jikojiro. Jikorijo. Excuse me. Yeah. Anyway, if you haven't seen it, either read or watch Akira. I recommend the manga. It is a lot deeper and longer. There's a lot of stuff that is cut for the film. If that's the only version you've seen, a lot of those characters get fleshed out a lot more. There's a lot of characters that just didn't really make it into the movie, as well as certain concepts that are really condensed. Once you've read it, like even getting a glimpse is kind of enough to go like, oh yeah, that part of the story. But okay, is he around almost 70? Oh, he's 69. Okay. He's a little older than I thought. Domu. Domu. It was printed in English by Dark Horse Comics, but that was back in like the early 90s. It was a long time ago. So it was a long time. Oh, he did a short story in Batman Black and White. I think I did read that, and it's yeah, I do remember that. I've got a cool book somewhere that I ordered from Amazon Japan. They Otomo released a whole series of basically art books throughout his career. They are in Japanese, but I got one based on his work on Domu. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. Anyway, we will see what he creates next. I hope when he's teasing us like this, it means that it's imminent that we'll get a little bit more. But who knows? Who knows? This one just amused me. Like, I don't know if we'll ever get a Constantine sequel, which I do think is a decent movie, by the way. But director Francis Lawrence, he made the first one, and he provided an update this week on a Constantine sequel, again starring Keanu Reeves, supposedly. Remember, the first one was 2005, so that's been 18 years, if I'm doing my math right. 18 years ago. But that's okay. John Constantine can definitely be older, and I think it could still work if we want to use Keanu again. But yeah, so Francis Lawrence did an interview with GameSpot. He had a couple quotes that I'm going to share. So Constantine 2 got obviously held up by the writer's strike, and we had to jump through a bunch of hurdles to get control of the character again because other people had control of the Vertigo stuff. That might be a reference to James Gunn taking over, the DCU. I don't know. He says, we have control. Keanu and Akiva Goldsman, it's the guy that wrote it, and I have been in meetings and have been hashing out what we think the story is going to be. And there's more meetings of those that have to happen. The script has to be written. But really hoping that we get to do Constantine 2 and make a real rated R version of it. Good luck. If not, I'm okay with a reboot. But I did like the Keanu Reeves version. I'm not going to lie. Is it a one-to-one for the character in the comics? Not exactly, because, this is an American guy with black hair. Does he look like John? Doesn't look like John. Doesn't sound like John with the accent. But does he act like John? Is the story in the first movie Something that you could have read in the Hellblazer comics? Yeah, I think it is. I do. I do. It's it's hard to say he has complete control. He gets to oversee this stuff, but Warner Brothers still gets to, approve the stuff James Gunn comes up with. I feel we need a really raunchy Constantine, like the Vertigo line version. Maybe. Yeah, maybe. Let's see. Constantine doesn't. Keanu doesn't have the Constantine vibe. Matt Ryan was Constantine. I believe Shia LaBeouf did die in Constantine the movie, if I'm remembering right. It was 2005. I haven't rewatched it. Yes, Peter Stormare was awesome as Lucifer. Small role, really good. Tilda Swinton was also really good as basically a corrupt angel. So I don't know. I would watch it if they made it. I would. I like that first movie. I think the story feels very much like a Hellblazer story. So, is it the John Constantine we know from the comics? Not exactly, but the story works. The John still is the same very fallible person with that just happens to know a lot about magic. It's interesting. I liked that when we see Lucifer first come into the scene in the Constantine movie, that he's dripping this like black sludge, like he has to corrupt the ground he walks on or something. It was weird. He's like barefoot. It's just so weird. I liked it. Did he really become an angel at the end? Well, that doesn't happen in Hellblazer, but that's fine. So, one more piece of news, and then I'm going to talk about some comics. There's a digital comics publisher that says that they are aiming to turn comics by creators into webtoon format, basically. Fable. Fable has launched with the intent to work with both existing publishers and creators to transform existing comics into vertical scrolling webtoon format. It's a good idea. It's a popular way to read comics. It could work. They announced also their plans to turn their original comics, they'll also make their own original comics, into films, stuff like that. They're working with a production studio called Envision. I forget the people that are behind Envision, but at least one of them was one of the producers on the Harry Potter movies. So, guy with some experience and clout. They also said that they're hiring now. This is a brand new company. So if you're curious, I'm pretty sure it's a British company, but yeah, they're called Fable. Fable is the name of this. It does seem like it would be labor intensive, but if that's your whole deal, I guess it could make sense. We'll see. We shall see. Let me add another camera here and turn on a light, and we will see some of the comics that came out this week. Oh, wait. Okay, yeah. For a minute, I was afraid my battery was dead, but it is not. It is not dead. So I'm going to remove this and stop that screen and present a new one. Let me see. How do I do this? Extra camera. That's all it is. Boom. I'm going to zoom this in before I add it to everything you guys see. Not quite that much. Come on, Chris. You can do it. Add this. Switch it over. Arsnoff, we are not talking about the comic book Fable. We were talking about a company named Fable. Fables. Two different things. I'm going to go through this kind of quick with mostly just what I recommend, and then I'll draw a little and take some questions. But a couple fun comics did come out this week, and I'm starting to get caught up on. I have a backlog from my traveling. Giant Robot Hellboy. This is a good standalone story written by Mike Mignola, art by Duncan Fegredo. You cannot go wrong with Duncan. He's fantastic. This takes place back in 1967, back when Hellboy was working for the Bureau of Paranormal Research and Defense. Within the first few pages, he's knocked out, and some scientists hook him up to something, and he wakes up as a gigantic mecha on an island. They're going to have him fight something. All I can say is it does not take long for there to be some action and intrigue, and Duncan Fegredo's art is a really good fit for Hellboy. He's done a lot. It's a crazy idea. Mike Mignola has said he's not really a big fan of like Godzilla and kaiju stuff. He's not an expert on that. But during the pandemic, he was drawing a lot of fun, weird Hellboy stuff, and this was a character he came up with. And Dark Horse was basically like, you got to do this as an actual comic. This is good. So do we know the full mystery? No. I don't know who this agency is that kidnapped him. I don't know the exact monsters he's going up against. But before the end of the first issue, we have giant robot Hellboy going up against, a huge monster. Just gigantic. And that's fun. I will say this is much better than last week. I picked up Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, and it's mostly a lot of pages talking about Superman's relationship with Lois Lane. A lot of pages about that. Not a lot of fighting in here. A lot of confusing storytelling. It's like, where's King Kong? Where's Godzilla punching Batman and Wonder Woman and stuff, So that was a little disappointing. This one gets to what you want to see a lot faster, and the art is really, really cool. I didn't see him get a giant cigarette yet, but that would be fun. Yeah, some good monster punching. Yeah, his Book of Quarantine sketches was awesome. He was doing some great work. And I mean, Duncan Fegredo is a really good artist that definitely captures, I should say, a lot of the Mignola vibe. Doesn't draw exactly like him, but is still confident with a lot of blacks. It's not the same sort of swathed in black, but it's a similar aesthetic enough that it really does work well for the character. Yeah, Godzilla versus Kong versus couples counseling, almost. So that was fun. That was a blast. So part 2 of Radiant Black's Catalyst War came out, and I think this is such a cool concept, but I don't think many comic book stores understood exactly what's happening here. There are 2 covers for every issue of the Catalyst War, but it's more than 2 covers. There's also a different artist working on each one. Basically, the timeline split at the very end of the last issue, issue 26. This is number 26A, also known as 26, and 26B is 26.5. My comic book store only ordered me 1 copy, even though I asked if they could get both. I went to a couple other comic book stores to try to find the other part. Again, out of luck, sold out. Which makes me think that comic book stores ordered sort of the normal amount of comics, but that would technically be half of their order, since each issue, there's 2 separate stories for each issue. So I only got to read so far the Marshall side of things. Marshall and Nathan have each become Radiant Black in the separate issues. And I see how Marshall handles things by bringing Nathan along and calling on allies, fighting like this robot invasion. We've got Radiant Pink. We've got the post office. If you read Radiant Black, you'd know. It's a lot of cool action and adventure, but I'm really, really curious to see what's happening in the Nathan issue. So I've got to catch up on that. I do like this. I think it probably will read best in trade paperback format, but I do like it. I do not know Fable's official site. That is a good question. But if you looked up Fable Digital Comics, that might be a good start. You didn't like the switch in protagonists? Yeah, I thought that was like a twist that I didn't see coming. All I can say is both characters factor very heavily into the story moving forward. I've gotten too close on this one, folks. I talk to Kyle and I hear his ideas and I get excited. And I only got into it because a lot of people on the show were recommending I check out Radiant Black. I checked out the first 6 issues in trade paperback and I really liked it. I think it's good stuff, but I hear about, like, some of Kyle's ideas. I try not to get myself spoiled, but I hear about some of his ideas and I get excited. I think he's a creative guy. And I think he's got a lot of good ideas for promoting stuff and a lot of good ideas for what he wants to do. I don't know. I'm excited. In the branch timeline, your comic shop had the other one. If only I could examine both. The latest issue of Void Rivals is fine. It's fun. It's good art. I wish the story would move a little faster for giving me like an explanation of where it's going, but I do like the Transformers tie-in stuff. There's more of it than I'd expect. In this issue, there's some more Quintesson stuff. Depends on how much you like Transformers. If you really like Transformers, you'll probably like Void Rivals. If you just want sort of sci-fi, I don't know what to make of this quite yet. And we're issue 5. It's good art, so you're not going to get disappointed reading this. I've been reading Robert Kirkman stuff for a long time. So, earlier we were talking about how Brian Michael Bendis and Peter David can sometimes have their characters start to sound the same. I get some of that with reading Robert Kirkman, if I'm honest. I love his story ideas for plots and stuff, but his characters often sound very similar to me. That's all. Boy, that coffee's good. Loved Oblivion Song. That's fair. Like I say, I do think that, I think that is a strong idea. I think Kirkman has really good plot ideas. I just think when it comes to his dialogue, his characters can often sound very samey, sounding a little bit literal about like what's in their head. They just say it and they talk in a very literal way. They can get emotional and stuff, but I don't always get the sense that they have wildly different personalities or educational backgrounds. And I'd like to see a little bit more variety there. I guess, he's not going to see this, but if he did, I'd just say, like, I hope you give some thought to trying to push yourself with the dialogue, because I know that Robert's a really funny guy too. And I'd love to see him add a little bit more of that humor to his sci-fi and horror stuff. I really think that he should lean into that because it's a real strength for him. It's a real strength. Here's another thing from Skybound, though, Robert's imprint. They are collaborating specifically with Universal to do an adaptation of Dracula. So this is based on the movie from 1931, like that take on Dracula, as compared to basing it on the book or just loosely on what we remember. But it is taking it from a different angle. So, first of all, written by James Tynion IV. A lot of people know he can do good comics and really good at horror. Martin Simmonds, his collaborator on Department of Truth. Good aesthetic here. The angle is on issue 1 here is primarily from the point of view of Dr. Seward and Renfield. So it's hinting more obliquely at like what's to come. And I think it's a good idea to focus on some of these supporting characters, because I think our biggest memories are of like the look of Bela Lugosi, or maybe of him corrupting Lucy, or maybe the big fight at the end when Van Helsing comes in and, it's got his allies like Quincy and stuff like that. But I like this take of like focusing on some characters from the book that are really important. No matter what, this is a good looking book. Martin Simmonds has a look that's a lot like Bill Sienkiewicz, which I think suits Dracula quite well. Quite well. We've got a lot of scenes of Jonathan Harker talking to Dr. Seward, since his daughter Mina is wait, am I getting this right? Mina, yeah, Mina is his daughter, and that's who he's engaged with. But we've got scenes of like Mina and Lucy talking about their paramours and this horrible, catastrophe of like the ship that ran aground with like 21 sailors killed, and that like everybody suspects Renfield. Of course, we know that like it's Dracula, but nobody else has the information to figure that out. It's an interesting take on the material, very dreamy and surreal at times. I'm glad that they're giving it that kind of space. And I like the angle, though. I like the angle so far of focusing on Renfield and Dr. Seward. Because that's probably like, it's important to the story. It's structurally important. And yet it's not always the angle that we see as much. You know, in the movie, we start with Jonathan Harker coming to Transylvania. This starts with the Demeter having already crashed and like Renfield, you know, getting arrested from there. So Dracula has made his way to England. I'm thinking about it. I'm giving some strong thought to it. I like Matt Wagner. I like Kelly Jones for covers. I don't always necessarily like his panel-to-panel storytelling as much, but he is a good fit for Dracula. There's a lot of Dracula stuff going on these days. Are you talking about Bela Lugosi? Yes, his stare. He had an intensity to it. I adored this comic. So creepy. If I can finish editing comic tropes tonight, there are 2 movies I really want to watch before Halloween is over. I want to rewatch 1931 Dracula again, because I haven't in many years, and this got me thinking about it. And I also I started the first few minutes of a great Argentinian horror movie called When Evil Lurks. Very disturbing. Gotta finish that one. I'm only a little ways in, but I can tell I'm gonna like it. I can tell. I could be wrong, but I think I'm gonna like it. As far as other things I read this week, I started Wonder Woman. Issue 2 came out this week, but I was behind, and I did get, thanks to my friend Tim. Tim, thank you so much. Tim got me a copy of Wonder Woman issue 1. Actually got me this awesome Art Germ variant cover and mailed it to me, which was just really nice of him. He didn't have to do that. This is a cool take on Wonder Woman. Yeah, I'm into it. I'm going to add this to my poll list. First of all, Daniel Sampere's art is great. That's a good looking Wonder Woman. That's a good looking Wonder Woman. Really hateable sort of secondary adversary in Sergeant Steele. He's so, he's so smarmy and sort of like barely hiding his misogyny. But if you're curious about the overall plot, basically it looks like an Amazon has killed 19 men, and the U.S. government issues an edict to have all people from Themyscira, from Amazon island, deported, basically, removed from the country. And that would include Wonder Woman. But Wonder Woman is determined to stay and resolve this issue. She is now on the run from the government. And issue 2 features an amazing story told in 2 parts. One of a very young Wonder Woman fighting for the right to be the person that will go out into man's world, the outside world, and spread peace and love. Another where, her friend Steve Trevor has been assigned underneath Sergeant Steele to try to bring her in. He just tries to talk to her. In both cases, it's just about how Wonder Woman is fighting for peace. It's really clever writing, and that she just doesn't give up. Wonder Woman can be a tough nut to crack. She's supposed to be this great warrior, but she's also about forgiveness and redemption and compassion. These are really important aspects that make Wonder Woman who she is and can make her very likable when you do it right. Otherwise, she can seem annoying. But when you do it right, she's really likable. Look at this great 2-panel, 2-page spread. One of her fighting in the arena as a young person, one of her just standing her ground as the entire U.S. military is deployed against her. It's a good split story that tells us something about her character, and has some amazing art. I'm trying to find, look at this. That is a good comic book splash page. Daniel Sampere is not afraid of adding stars to add to that impact. But like, this is good lettering, like, going with the flow of the energy, and it's got like, a really well rendered but small, Wonder Woman just smashing two tanks. That is a good, detailed but exciting a splash panel. It's really good art, good panel to panel, good everything. Really, really strong. Really, really strong. And a bit of a mystery. Who is this character, Emily, that's like gone on this killing spree, and why? There's something that like hits in like as number 2 issues that we get to know a little bit more about the mysterious killer. But this is a good take on Wonder Woman. I don't always love Wonder Woman, but when Wonder Woman is done well, Wonder Woman can be awesome. I loved Daniel Warren Johnson's Wonder Woman Dead Earth. That is a great Wonder Woman story. And so far, I really do like this Tom King, Daniel Sampere Wonder Woman. 2 issues in, I'm into it. I'm into it. I'm seeing a lot of good comments. Let's see. Writing a demigod is kind of difficult for me. Yeah, she's powerful. So you got to find ways to put her on the back foot. But so far, they're threading a needle in terms of giving her a threat that she can't necessarily just solve with physical violence. That she needs to fight to maintain or achieve a new peace. So it gives her a good purpose, and it gives us a little bit of her history, and it looks nice. I like how current the story feels. Yes, it really does. The stuff about how the U.S. treats some of these Amazons who are here legally, but, as guests, let's just say it feels very up to the minute in how our government can sometimes treat immigrants. It's amazing. Well, Steve Trevor is also pretty confident that she could take the military. Not 100% convinced, but she can. Oh, I'm glad you were able to back Harry Partridge's Starbarians. It hit its goal. Harry will be able to make his comic book. We're trying to figure out a way for him to stop by on the show. He doesn't like doing a lot of like, appearance type stuff, but he does want to promote it, and we get along. I want to find a way to make him comfortable doing that. Let's see. One thing is that, but the thing is that was only one incident of how a rogue Amazon means ban all Amazons. It is an overreaction, which is sort of why. But here's the thing. Here's the other thing. You're right. First of all, you're like, well, wait a minute. The U.S. government seems to be massively overreacting and deporting all Amazons and going after Wonder Woman based on one incident, right? Like that, even if it's 19 people dead is not nothing. I'll just give you a hint in case you haven't read it and you're like, do I want to read it or not? It just hints at who the overall villain might be. It's a new character, a character called the Sovereign, who can manipulate entire societies. An old man who, it's implied, has had the power from generation to generation to guide and direct the United States if they feel like it, because they have something called the lasso of lies. We've already established Wonder Woman has the lasso of truth. What if you had a lasso that could make people believe any lie you told? Like that's interesting. So this is a guy that they're calling the Sovereign. And sometimes this works very well in superhero comics to have a real opposite. Wonder Woman looks like a young woman. This is an old, ugly man. She's got the lasso of truth and fights for peace. This guy's got the lasso of lies. And so he's manipulating things, okay? You're right. The U.S. would normally not necessarily react this way, but this guy is manipulating things behind the scenes. We don't know much more than that. That's just one panel. I don't think that's a huge spoiler. That's more, it's issue 1. It's getting you into the premise. I want to share that with you. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, you're like, wait, how has there not been an opposite for her main weapon? But yeah, lasso of lies. I got the Lasso of Lies social app. I think it does. I think that is the explanation for the overreaction. Which also means, we don't have to necessarily tell a story where Wonder Woman sits in front of the UN and has like a 6-issue debate over how we should treat things. We can simplify this story a little bit so that there can be an antagonist. And that's also why I was calling Sergeant Steel more of like a foil or something. He's not necessarily the main antagonist. I also read the last 2 issues of Something is Killing the Children. Boy, did it read well as reading 2 issues, which reminded me of when I found this and I got to just read the first several trade paperbacks. This story can sometimes be a slow burn, which is really good for horror, but can leave you a little unsatisfied sometimes reading just 22 pages or so of story. But boy, the monster in this one is awesome. This is like an evil monster version of our main character, our Erica Slaughter. And she's like, when she sees it, she's like, why does it look like me? But that's not necessarily the main threat. The main threat is very human. It's a woman with all the same skills as Erica Slaughter as a monster hunter, but who just has no moral code and will kill anybody, even go after kids. It reads really well when I could read two issues at once. I don't know if I want to take a 6-month break waiting for like trade paperbacks, but I know that that's got to be a satisfying way to read it. It's got to be. Sorry. You think that comic has an ending, or will that curse never end? Oh, my light went out. I forgot to plug it in. Hold on. All of a sudden, it got really green. Where do I plug it in? There it is. There it is. Get a little color back in here. Are you talking about the Wonder Woman? I don't know. Or are you talking about Something is Killing the Children? Which one are you talking about, Marvin? Having trouble like aiming the light now that I moved it. Oh, I've also got this on now. Sorry. So I didn't know which book you were talking about. Sorry. Oh, Something is Killing. Yeah, I think that they'll probably give it a definitive ending someday. I really do. I don't think it's going to go on forever. I think she could go in as many arcs as you want, but I get the sense that they could probably end it at some point. I can't give this one a super strong recommendation. I guess it's the last comic I'll bring up this week. I got the first 2 issues of Predator versus Wolverine. This is very fun. It's not necessarily deep. They tell it in such a way that, like, literally this could fit within the continuity of Wolverine. And I guess the premise is that since it's a limited series, it's got this same Predator coming after him at different points of his life. We start with him as essentially a teenager in, the Canadian tundra. But it is drawn by Greg Land, and a couple panels look good, but a lot of them look weird to me. He's not my favorite artist for I don't know. Second one has Andrea DeVito doing a story back when he was working with Team X later in his career with Sabretooth and Maverick and stuff like that. It's fun. It's not bad. It's not bad at all. It just isn't necessarily deep. It isn't like something like out of what I reviewed this week, just to be clear, the 2 that I would recommend the strongest would be like Giant Robot Hellboy and Wonder Woman. Okay, those are the 2 that I would talk up the most. But I liked Something is Killing the Children. I liked Radiant Black. Dracula was stronger than I expected it to be. Okay. Maybe I can draw a little bit. I can't draw for too long because I do have to do some work on comic tropes. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Is that going to do it? Let me angle some stuff here. Oh, you know what I want to do? Just for fun? Hold on. I picked up something today. I'm going to open it. So far, Wolverine sort of has beat him twice. In the first one, Wolverine thought he finished him off by having a bear ambush the Predator in a cave and just walked away. The Predator comes out, with the bear's carcass. And in the second one, how did he think? I forget how he thought he beat him in the second one. That's why it's not fantastic, but it's fun. Yeah. I was disappointed with Wolverine Predator 1, so never picked up 2. I can understand that. It's okay. I did get Batman Gargoyle of Gotham. Just haven't had time to read it yet, unfortunately. I do want to read it. I like Raphael Grandpa. That was very good. I found a couple of these at the store today. So I'm going to open these blind boxes that have Lego Marvel minifigs. Let's see who I get. They're all based on like recent MCU stuff. She-Hulk, Agatha, Hawkeye, Echo. Could be these and others. Let's see who I get. Okay, let's see who I get. I think I got Hawkeye. Let's build this thing. Let's see. Yep, this is definitely Hawkeye. Where? Oh, they've got a little owl. That's hilarious because if you watched the Hawkeye show, there was a key scene with an owl taking away some bad guys because Hawkeye had a shrinking arrow borrowed from what do you call it? Borrowed from Hank Pym. I got Hawkeye. Can you see him? There. He's got a little Band-Aid on his head. Put him there. And we've got a tiny little owl. Let me see if that focuses. Left focus. There it is. Cute little owl. I'll put that on this little stand that it comes with. That's a decent one. I'm happy enough to get that. There we go. So there's one minifig down. They also have apparently a couple that are based on the X-Men 97 cartoon since they're going to be making a sequel to that on Disney+. I'm less interested in that. I like Wolverine and Beast okay, but I'd rather get, say, She-Hulk or something like that. Or Mr. Knight. I know they've got a Mr. Knight figure. Oh, I think I got Agatha. Agatha Harkness, everybody's favorite. I don't know. Yeah, because there's a cape in here. Let's get the cape out. That's Lego is pretty good quality. I don't know. Anybody else out there like building Lego? I like Lego a lot. I don't build a whole lot of Lego anymore because you guys know my cats are pretty wild. So I got to be kind of careful because they like to attack stuff. It's a good headpiece. She's got a wink. I have no idea. Oh, that wasn't in hers. That went with Hawkeye. I'm so stupid. Let me clip that in. Yeah, you know what? I don't really have time to draw. I should get editing on comic tropes. That's what people want the most. But I'm going to just build these last couple things that I have. Comes with a book. Oh, it's the Darkhold. Yup. Any advice on drawing blank covers, or is it just something you go for without second guessing? I sketched mine out. I was nervous. Fortunately, they make them on good paper now. That expression's worth it. Catherine Hahn is amazing. Catherine Hahn is great. You prefer old lady Agatha? That's fair. She looks like she's ready to show Harry Potter some real secrets of sorcery. Oh, that's cool. What did I say? Oh, the expression must, yeah. So we've got a book here to build. So let's see. Okay, I'm going to clip in that, and now it looks like the Darkhold if you open it up. You can't really make out a whole lot of that, but yeah. It's got some detail to it, which is nice. Nice printing. Clip that together. Close the book. I'm going to sneeze. Sorry, I always sneeze twice. Don't know why. That's just me. She gets some of these little bolts. You can clip these into figures' hands if you haven't seen these. So she's got like a little energy blast. And then if you push it in, it'll shoot forward. That just shot across my desk. But yeah, so that's fun. There's a little bit of activity there. And you can have her literally hold a book. It can clip into the figure's hand. So she's got that. She can have some energy from some chaos magic or something like that. And there we go. Where did I shoot the other energy? There. How do I... The only thing I don't love about Lego is when you can't have everything connect to itself. So I've got like this little extra kibble. I'm going to lose that, you know? I don't love that. All right, one more. I was able to get 3. I like the current Hulk is guest appearing in other Marvel books. I do too. You know, if he's making his way across the country, he should have some adventures with other characters. I think that's a good idea. Alex Braun says, I bought my first blank cover for the Micronauts reprints. I'm planning on drawing Princess Mari. That sounds awesome. I did not get Wolverine yet anyway, Spider Fan. Thank you, Adavoida. Yeah, I always appreciate likes and subscribes. Oh, I think I got... Let me double check what all the pieces. Yeah, this must be Bill Foster. Giant Man. Or Black Goliath. Because, yeah, this is definitely the Ant-Man sort of helmet. So my best guess, since like he did not appear as this character in like, you know, we saw Bill Foster in Ant-Man 2, and he was said to have this technology or help build this technology with Hank Pym, but we didn't see that. My best guess is this means he'll show up in What If season 2. That's my guess. Comes with a hairpiece if I want to just put his hair on, but I kind of like how this helmet looks. It looks kind of like what the Avengers outfit was in Endgame. That was all based on Pym technology, but he's Giant Man, and you can tell because they gave me, he's a minifig. This is a micro fig of Ant-Man. So that makes him Giant Man. That's kind of cool. I like that. Clip this guy in. And that's what it looks like. And that's everything that I had to unbox for these guys. So I got Agatha, Black Goliath, and Hawkeye. WandaVision, Hawkeye, and I assume What If Season 2. I assume. And a bunch of extra kibble that I don't know what to do with. I'm going to end it there, folks. I got to get working on editing this comic tropes. I really want to get you guys that. As much fun as it would be to draw and just hang out and take questions, I think overall everybody will be happier if I give them another episode of the show as compared to watching me draw. So I can draw anytime that I've got some free time. I'll hold that for another time. I'll continue this sometime. But thank you for giving me some of your time today. That's adorable. Yeah, I think he's confirmed for What If. That's my best guess. That makes sense to me that he would be. Anybody watch the Lego Marvel thing that dropped on Disney Plus Friday? No. Oh, did they do something? What did they do? I don't know what they did. Whoa, thank you, Hulkzilla. I sincerely appreciate that. I hope all of you guys know, like, you know, the super chats add up and they mean a lot to me. They really do. I've gotten to a point where, you know, I do consider that like some of how I get income to live my life. And I'd love to get to a point where I can justify doing just YouTube for you all. But I appreciate it a lot. Thank you. That's really kind of you. Thank you for all the kind words, everybody. I had a fun time talking about comics tonight. And what else to look forward to? I'm going to try to get this comic Tropes out. I think it'll be a fun one. If you're going to a Halloween party or you have kids or something like that, have a great time. Be safe. Boy, Halloween can be crazy some places. I don't know if you heard, but the Japanese government banned Halloween, which is technically like right now or earlier tonight because they're so far ahead. They banned it in Shibuya Crossing because in Shibuya, it's gotten crazy. Every year it gets crazier, and people keep like grabbing girls and stuff, in their costumes. So hopefully you guys don't deal with anything crazy like that. I'm going to see you real soon. You're going to see me anyway, because I'm going to get this episode done. And until that time, you know what to do. Keep reading comics. Take care, everybody. Happy Halloween. And I can't wait to see you real soon. Take care.